I want to welcome you all to this evening's webinar. Let's talk life sharing. Life sharing for me, honestly, is kind of this thing that gets talked about a lot, but doesn't always get talked about in detail very often. So hopefully we will be able to answer some of the questions that you may have this evening. I will be learning right along with you. I know many of the other people on this we'll all be learning together. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Melissa Skiffin. I have been with the ARC of Greater Pittsburgh Achieva for a little over 6 years now. I work in the Disability and Family Supports Department. I am pretty much a lifetime resident of Westmoreland County, other than 3 years in my 20s when I lived in Baltimore. And I am with my husband raising a 13-year-old teenager who is at the school dance this evening. Um, and Kiefer has Down syndrome and autism. So that's a little bit about me. I work in the Advocacy and Family Supports Department. Under our umbrella is the ARC of Greater Pittsburgh and the ARC of Erie County, and we are a part of the Achieva family of organizations. Who we are. So as a member of the Achieva family of organizations, we do offer free, all of our services are free under the Advocacy and Family Support Department. We offer free technical assistance and individual advocacy to all people with disabilities, their families, and community partners. We do engage in systemic advocacy on issues that impact children and adults with disabilities in Harrisburg and also in Washington, D.C. And then there is also work going on to develop policy with disability and healthcare initiatives. So that's just a little bit about what we do. Advocacy is very broad. I feel like most things fit under advocacy, but that's just a little bit of a narrow scope of what we do. As I mentioned, we are a part of the Achieva family of organizations. This is our family tree. As you can see, shown here is Achieva Support, Achieva Resource, ARC of Greater Pittsburgh, the Achieva Family Trust. Autism Connection joined the family of organizations about 3 years ago, I believe, and the ARC of Erie County joined about 18 months ago. So those are two newer organizations underneath the umbrella. Achieva is unique. We've been around for about over 70 years now. And we do support people through the lifespan. So we support people from early intervention on up through school age and then into adulthood as well. This is our geographic reach. ARC of Greater Pittsburgh supports people in Beaver, Allegheny, and Westmoreland County. And then ARC Erie supports people up in Erie County. Our mission and vision is that Achieva advocates with, empowers, and supports people with disabilities and their families throughout their lives. And our vision is that Achieva envisions a community where all people with disabilities lead their lives of personal significance. These are our core values: respect, passion, ethics, change, and team. And then here is the contact information for ARC of Greater Pittsburgh. I will also put my direct contact information in the chat as well. And you probably got an email earlier from me today with my contact info too, but just to make sure that everyone gets connected. This is the phone number to reach our intake line and then our website for Achieva. I'm going to stop sharing. And I am actually going to introduce our first presenter this evening. So kicking off our evening is going to be Vicki. Vicki is with the Office of Developmental Programs and has kindly agreed to spend her evening talking about life sharing and trying to help us understand all of the details of, or at least some of the details of life sharing, so that it isn't just this big unknown thing. So Vicki, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Vicki Summers. I work for the Office of Developmental Programs. And sorry, my name says Devin Summers, but I'm actually Vicki. I am the program representative and I am the life sharing lead. A little bit about myself. My husband and I have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, ages 24, 22, and 17. My oldest son is diagnosed with intellectual disability, autism, and also seizure disorder. And I know that, and I understand your need for more knowledge for now and for the future. And hopefully this presentation will give you a little bit more information about life sharing. So I believe we have a PowerPoint.
Hi, we do have a PowerPoint. I sent it over. I could share it myself, but I'm not sure how to do that from
That's
my
okay.
end.
Oh, I see it, Kathy. Give me 1 second and I will bring it right
Sure.
up for you.
Sure.
1 second.
And while you're doing that, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Kathy Trainey. I'm with the Office of Developmental Programs. Vicki and I work together along with Michelle O'Toole, who's here this evening. My focus areas are quality management and supporting families across the lifespan. I'm a co-lead in this region with Nancy Hampson. And we're super happy to be here to talk about planning and life sharing. So thanks for having us.
Yes, good evening. My name is Michelle O'Toole, and I work with Kathy and Vicki/Devin in the Office of Developmental Programs. I'm the regional program manager for the West, so my responsibilities kind of umbrella over a bunch of different things. Life sharing has long been something that I have been super interested and supported in. I have friends who are life sharing families, and was in pretty early on the development of the service way back in the 90s. So we're really pleased to have this opportunity to spend some time with y'all and talk about the opportunity that this support presents for folks.
Did you guys see the presentation? Did it share okay?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Awesome. Just tell me whenever needed and I will advance the slide for you.
Yep, you can go to the next one. So in the next half hour, we're going to try to explain and define life sharing for you. Who can be a life sharer? We have a bunch of pages on the benefits of life sharing, what the life sharers do. We're going to talk about the relationship between the life sharer and the provider. And then finally, we're going to talk about some person-centered planning tools and how to get started, how to get the process rolling. So go ahead, you can go to the next slide. So before we kind of jump in, we're going to define some terms just so we're all on the same page. This is a difficult subject with a lot of different agencies because they call things different things. So we're going to just go over the definitions so we're all on the same page from the beginning. So the individual is any person who is eligible for ODP services, a person with intellectual disability, developmental disability, or autism. The life sharer is the person who is supporting the individual in their home or in the individual's home. So that's what we're going to call the person that is actually supporting the individual. The host family can be the life sharer plus the other people who live in the home that shares their lives with the individual. And then the provider is the agency who is responsible for managing the life sharing. The agency supports the life sharer and the individual. Any questions about that? Just so we're on the same page with all the terms. And we are going to also use terms person and individual interchangeably throughout the presentation. Okay, go ahead to the next page. Okay, what is life sharing? Life sharing is a service model option where an individual and a person or family choose to live together. So there's a couple different options. There's a couple different locations that can occur. One is the private home of the host family / life sharer. So either life sharer only or the family, or the private home of the individual. So those are two of the places that it can occur. The host family life share may be the individual's relative or legal guardian, or it can be a person who doesn't know, is not related to the individual. The life sharing model the life sharing family or the host family is never meant to replace the current relationships in an individual's life, such as the biological family. It's life sharing is just another option, another model, just like residential was a model and an option. So we believe that life sharing is a great option for a lot of folks. Okay, you can go to the next slide. A little bit more about life sharing. The support in life sharing is based on the person's needs and the supports. It can occur up to 24 hours or less. The amount of support is based on their assessed need for physical, psychological, medical, and emotional assistance. The life sharing home can serve one or two individuals. And generally, they have consolidated or community living waiver. There are a few other options, but they're very rare. Individuals can receive additional supports like day activities, behavior supports, employment supports, remote supports, just to name a few. There are a whole bunch more, but those are most of the popular ones that folks have enrolled into. Let me know if I'm going too fast. If you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or just ask. Okay, go ahead on to the next slide. So there are two options for life sharing. One is licensed and one is unlicensed. And the licensed is a non-family member who requires more than 30 hours of support a week on average. And then the unlicensed is a family member who is the host family or life sharer, or an individual requires less than 30 hours of support a week. So depending on what the individual needs, who the life sharer is, will depend on whether it's licensed or unlicensed. Any questions about that?
Vicki, it's Melissa. I do actually have a question.
Sure.
Say a person started, in the unlicensed setting, could they then shift to like to the licensed side of that, or you know what I mean? Or is it kind of once you're in one, you're that's the one you're in?
No, the individual's needs are going to determine that. So if it started out with a relative that was unlicensed, or if it started out with not a relative that the individual only requires less than 30 hours, but then now they require more than that, they'll need to get licensed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, you can move on. So who can be a life sharer? Life sharers are a person's natural family or a person or a family who wants a meaningful connection with an individual. And basically who can be a life sharer is anyone who wants to. A family can begin life sharing and plan for their future and the future of their loved ones. And a family or person who wants to support their family member or wants to expand their family to offer support and consistency to a person with ID or autism. Any questions about that?
This is Mary. I'm going to go back to the last slide just because I'm still a little bit lost with licensed and unlicensed. So we've been talking a lot about licensed homes versus licensed care. Can you share a little bit about that? Is this, in this case, would the home need to be licensed as well?
I think I understand your question, but yes, so for the licensed life sharing, the home would be licensed. And what that entails is following the 6,500 regulations for life sharing, which includes the home, but it also includes some documentation. There's a lot that goes with that other than just inspecting the home. So I'm not sure that there's really a difference between, it's just called licensed. it's either licensed or it's not.
Can a licensed home be in a person's name rather than, or does it have to be a separate from the person themselves?
I can jump in a little, Vicky, on this one.
Sure.
So, Mary, a couple things. We don't really have licensed services per se, like you might have in a foster care situation or something where the agency is licensed. We have the agency, but also each individual site is licensed. As far as whether something is licensed or not, as Vicky said, it's dependent upon the number of hours of support a person needs if it's in a home that is not theirs or their family's home. If the home is owned by the person or their family, it is a private home and it is not subject to licensing. So, if you go through all the licensing rules and regulations, you will discover that it very clearly identifies what situations are subject to licensing. So what we have the authority to license and what we don't have the authority to license. And private homes are not subject to licensing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You can find it in 6500 under applicability, and I apologize, I cannot remember which number
problem.
at the beginning of the set of regs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, Vicki.
No, that's okay. That's one of the umbrellas that you you oversee, and I don't. Okay, so any questions about this page? All right, we can move on. So there's this is one of at least 2 pages of benefits, and you can see there are a lot. So the reciprocal roles, being cared about and being cared for, the support can enhance the family, usually considered by both the life share and the individual as their home. Mutual respect for the personal routines, rhythm, rights, independence, and privacy. It's a model that that really takes into account all of those things, the independence, the choice, which I think we'll get to on the next page, provides access to experiences for personal growth for both the individual and the life sharer. And you will share your life with an individual, and the individual will share their life with you. And it continues on the next page if you want to flip. It's a person-centered approach. There's lots of choice on who they live with, what type of environment they live in, where they live. There's a continuity of support. It ends up being an everyday life. And they're a valued member of a family, caring about and caring for, and a valued member of their community. A lot of the other benefits come from staffing as well. You're in a family setting. You don't have to worry about when staff shows up, when staff doesn't show up. You live in your home with your family. The other thing is life sharing services are consistently rated as having the highest satisfaction by individuals in Pennsylvania. It's a model that has a high level of satisfaction for all those reasons we just talked about. Any questions on that? Okay, you can go to the next slide. What does a life sharer do? Basically provides support, assistance, and guidance in all of those areas. Individuals' rights, medical appointments, supporting and empowering, daily activities, developing and maintaining relationships, personal interests, everything we do in our home, right? Transportation, community involvement. So it's an individual living with a family that may need some help along the way, and you're there to assist and support. Okay, next page. What does the relationship look like between the life share and the provider? So remember, the provider is the agency who oversees the individual and the life share relationship. Each life share and individual has a life sharing specialist whose role it is to support the individual and the host family in the life sharing relationship. So it's a very integral part of the success of the situation. The life sharing specialist provides oversight. They monitor the outcomes and the health, the wellness, ongoing assessments of support and needs, and then relief for the host family if needed. There is a contract between the life sharer and the provider, which describes the roles and the responsibilities, the daily rate, the required documentation, the room and board payments, and any licensing requirements. And there are a lot of different, somebody have a question? Oh, no, sorry. So all life sharing providers offer a variety of support within their contract. So life sharers have the choice of providers. They can pick and choose. They can shop around, decide which provider works best for you. Some of the differences may be in the language. Some use the daily rate term, some use stipend, some use monthly payment or biweekly payment. And there are currently 96 providers statewide in Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of different choice out there for life sharers, and you want to pick one that you like and the model that you like. Any questions about that?
I do have a question, Vicky. Sorry.
Sure.
I'm
No,
a very question-y kind of person.
that's
Um,
good.
so, and maybe you're going to get into this and I'm getting too far down the road, but um, how would one start this process or start this conversation? Like that seems to be a great unknown, and I apologize if I got there too quickly.
That's okay. You kind of did, but that's okay. I'm going to let Kathy do the next few slides, and then that's one of the last slides that we're going to do is
Perfect.
how this process works.
Perfect. I'm happy to wait.
Okay. All right, Kath, I think you're up for
Thanks,
the
Vicki.
next slide. You're welcome.
Right.
Excuse me, I have a question on the contract aspects.
Sure.
So what happens if this life sharer signs a contract with the provider, but then say 10 or 15 years down the road has a medical issue or decides that they want to do something different and they want to retire to Florida, whatever it is. And so that person, the life sharer, leaves. What's the process to ensure that that disabled individual has continued care?
That will probably be covered with the same, where do you start? The SC would need to be involved, and at that point, the individual, if they want to choose another life sharer and to still be in that model, they can look at that. They can look at other options. Kathy, on the next few slides, will show and talk more about the life course tools. And, hopefully we would know before they get up and move to Florida, and there would be a lot of planning involved so that individual can find either another life share or the right model for them.
But what happens, for example, if the life sharer has a medical emergency that takes them out of the support that they normally give 24 hours? What happens then?
Yeah,
Is it all to the supports coordinator then?
So there's all kinds of other options. There's options of respite. They can be placed in temporary respite. If there's another family member involved, if there's another person that is willing to step in. So we'd have to look at the individual circumstance, on what would work for making sure that individual's needs are met immediately.
Yeah, if I can just build a little bit on that. Life sharing is a service that's only provided through an agency. So the life sharer has to be associated with an agency. And the reason behind that is so that there is that support for the individual and the life sharing family, so that those things would all be built into the plan, and it would fall upon the agency to ensure that there's adequate support for the person and look for one of those options that Vicki was describing.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is a more financial question. So, and this comes back to whether the home is licensed or unlicensed. It's my understanding that the compensation rates to the provider or to the life sharer are different depending on whether it's classified as a licensed home or unlicensed home. So first of all, is that correct? Is that a correct understanding that the licensed home will provide a greater compensation to the provider and life sharer potentially? And if the answer to that is yes, then the question to the providers is why would they ever consider doing an unlicensed home at all if the compensation is so much greater for a licensed home?
So I'll do that one. It's Michelle O'Toole. So when you look at licensed or unlicensed, as far as the experience for the provider, the vast majority of that relates to the amount of support that the person needs, because it's, based on your hours of support. The other factor that figures into your rate is going to be the individual's general acuity level, which is reflected in what we call needs groups. So while there may be some slight differences related to the number of hours of support and the acuity level, that's really what's going to drive the rate rather than licensed or unlicensed.
Well, let me ask it another way. Let's assume the disabled individual requires 24/7 support. And the family or whatever, the remaining family that's still alive at present decides to do a licensed home, that will drive a certain compensation rate to the provider and to the life sharer. My question is, if they decide to just do it in a private, unlicensed home, isn't it a fact that the rates go way down for the same type of support, 24/7?
I'm going to be frank with you. I don't know. I don't have the rates memorized. There are differences in rates related to the level of support. So I know that those are differences of rates. Additionally, it's related to their requirements for support for the person in the needs group level. So we'd have to look at each individual situation. And it's not been our experience that our life sharing providers are not working with families in their own homes or for folks who require the less than 30 hours a week of support. So that hasn't been our experience.
Right. So, but I'm looking at an individual that has complex needs, medical support needs, whatever. And so it's a 24/7 requirement for the provider and the life sharer. So on that basis, I'm trying to establish or at least understand what are the different options for that individual moving forward. Can we go with a private home? Do we have to do it unlicensed? Or do we do another home that's licensed? And I'm trying to understand what the driver is in terms of from the provider and for the life sharer for that same basic service.
I think I understand your question. It's based on the assumption that the rate of compensation wouldn't be adequate in an unlicensed setting. And I guess what I'm saying is we haven't experienced that yet. We'd have to look at each individual situation and see what the drivers are there.
I guess my experience is most providers want to go to the consolidated waiver and get the license because their compensation rates are higher.
So,
And
I can appreciate that, and I'm happy to have that conversation on like a one-to-one basis to see what the barriers are to establishing that particular life sharing relationship. There's not a global answer for that, I guess is what I'm
Okay.
saying to you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
There's another question. Jim has his hand raised.
It's not so much a question as it is with regard to licensing. I think it sounds like, sir, you understand that, or you believe that it's a choice of, well, I'll choose this to be licensed, or I'll choose it not to be licensed. It'll be an unlicensed life sharing opportunity. Really, I think what that is determined by the person who's receiving the supports. That's determined by their needs, not just some random choice of how someone's going to choose to receive their funding or the money. So it's really based on need, hence the idea of a person needs less than 30 hours of support a week. That's going to be an unlicensed home because their level of service is not nearly as high as someone else's. And with regard to the type of situation that you just mentioned, it is all very individualized, but certainly if a person's level of support needs are 24/7, it's more than likely that is going to be a licensed facility because that person is going to need more than 30 hours during an entire week of support. Does that help at all?
Yeah, Jim, thank you. That exactly matches the circumstance if this is in a host home life sharing situation. I think the nuance that we're trying to work out a little bit is if it's in a family home. So if it's life sharing with a relative.
Oh, okay. I jumped on a bit late.
Yeah, no, I
so
appreciate it
may
because I
not
think
have
you
heard
gave a
that
really
part.
great explanation. Yeah, it's just that
I appreciate the comments, but if you look at the compensation tables that are provided from the state, it's very clear that if you need 24/7 support or even less support than say 30 hours or less, if you just look at the compensation rates to the provider, it's very clear to me at least that the compensation rates for a licensed home is substantially higher. And so, that's the way it's set up. So it's pushing people to the licensed home scenario. Because I don't think providers are going to go with an unlicensed home and not get the compensation that they expect that would result from an unlicensed home. It's just not sufficient to cover everything that they want to cover.
So I agree with you. Unlicensed service and the reimbursement is lower because the cost associated with that is lower. A licensed home is for a person with more elevated needs, and the reimbursement rate for that is higher. So the other fact is that a person who needs 24/7 will receive a higher compensation than a person requiring less support. But to all of the points made, each situation is its own that needs to be considered. So this review is kind of a high level. What is it? How does it work? And how to do it? If you're interested, is kind of what we're laying the foundation for. So I'm very happy you have these questions because if you're going to pursue this and learn a little bit more about that, it certainly will come into focus.
And David, I did put my email and direct extension in the chat. If you wanted to connect in the coming days, we would be happy to talk with you more about it, talk to you more in detail regarding your specific situation and connect you to anyone that could be helpful. I'm happy to be that hub and that support for you.
Yeah, I appreciate the input. I appreciate the presentation. My comment, though, is it's a fairly significant decision going to a licensed home versus a private home that's unlicensed in terms of what that means to the families for that individual, disabled individual. a private home that's unlicensed is somewhat straightforward, but a licensed home requires a slew of things that are required to get that license or licensability. And that's a big difference for, I think, family members. I'm speaking for myself, but I suspect others have the same feeling that a licensed home requires a lot more modifications. The costs for that go up. So this is not a trivial question about licensed versus unlicensed homes.
Can I ask, David, and maybe I don't know if this is where also, maybe if ODP can answer this. Are there agencies that are serving people in unlicensed homes in life sharing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are. And so that's why I'm suggesting, I think Kathy, makes a good point, is that we're looking at a general overview. And I think when we get into very specific situations, we need to talk about those very specific situations, because there's kind of a whole lot that's being talked about here. And when you talk about the costs required to be in a licensed home compared to the costs required to be in an unlicensed home, we just have to kind of shows that out and see what folks are talking about and what they believe the needs of the person to be, and see how that works. But we do successfully support people through life sharing in their families' private homes. So yeah, we can open up that conversation, and we're delighted to have it, to be honest with you.
And thank you for those questions. Okay, I think we can move to the next slide. Again, hi guys, I'm Kathy, and I'm gonna just do a little overview of what is some of the background information that will be important should you, whether you're pursuing life sharing or you're pursuing something else. These are very easy person-centered planning tools that can be used by anyone for any purpose. So at the Office of Developmental Programs, we've adopted these planning tools. We like the way they work. We like the way they work. Families like the way they look and work. And they really kind of can gain some ownership over their own planning. So the first thing I want to mention is family need information and resources to make decisions. We call those our 3 buckets. We also have the trajectory, which helps people plan for the future, for their life, or for their whole family's life, or for their loved one. And the little icons at the bottom of that arrow in the middle image, those are life domains. So over the course of your life, you will be looking to do and plan something different based on where you are in your life. So if you're working with a youngster and we're looking at school age things, you're helping plan and think about what you want for your child at that age. As folks move into high school, adulthood, I am now towards the end of that trajectory. You're looking at retirement or end of life planning. So all of these tools can really help you. The star at the bottom is called the Integrated Support Star, and it helps to outline kind of the conditions of, I'll use myself as an example. I might put my name in the middle of that star and talk about certain areas of my life. What skills and assets do I have in each parts of those quadrants? Okay, next slide. This is what one of the trajectory planning tools look like. I wanted to give you a version that was not completed, but in the top upper right is the vision that I want, or you have for your son or daughter. The box at the bottom right is what I don't want. And when you're completing these tools, sometimes there are tools that you might do in one sitting and then come back to and do more on a little bit later. On the top left, that box is for experiences that will lead you in the direction you want. And the bottom little shaded box is the things that have happened that you think take you off your vision of what you want. Next slide. Okay, I don't know if you can read this. It's awfully small. I did leave Melissa with a copy of this, but this is one completed. Usually the ones that we're working with may be handwritten, and that's fine too. But again, on the top right, the vision for what I want, this is a vision for a person who wants to live in and be part of their community. They want to be safe in their home, to have friends to hang out with, etc. I think one of the things that we've learned is that when you think about person-centered planning, which is a term we use a lot in this field, it really comes down to kind of what all people want. So usually that's what you're going to see there. And it helps people focus on really what's important to the person. Sure, people's healthcare needs are important and all of those need to be addressed. But we also need to spend time on what the vision is for what they want in their life. Everybody wants to be healthy and safe, and there needs to be a plan to help support that. And then how do they want to live their lives? And then again, what they don't want. In the bottom, things that might take you off your trajectory would be not being able to get to the doctor appointments, or having no transportation, or becoming angry and frustrated because I'm bored. On the top, it says on the left, I want to have my own bedroom where I can be alone, privacy, participate. This person wants to participate in Special Olympics, work part-time at a local Walmart. This person likes being able to use their phone and iPad to talk to friends. These tools are nice also to help that person or family communicate with others very simply what is important and how they might be best supported. Anybody have questions about the trajectory? Okay, next slide. And I showed you the star on the earlier slide, but here it is in full color, a blank version. And you can put anything in the middle. And at the top are personal strengths and assets. On the right-hand purple side are relationships. That would be all the relationships a person has. Usually they're listed by name and or association. On the bottom right is eligibility specific, and this would be things like a library card, a driver's license, health insurance, a high school diploma. Those are things that the person has or accomplished that they have that they are eligible for, like a GED. Bottom left is community-based, things that people do in the community, places they go, places they go and things they do in the community. And then the left side is technology. This could be anything from a coffee maker to an iPhone, to an alarm clock, to a Ring doorbell, a Hoyer lift, anything like that. I think what is so valuable about this tool, if you want to go to the next slide, it starts to help you understand the circle of that person's life. And when you're planning for somebody, especially if you're a supports coordinator or a family member, sometimes as a supports coordinator or an SC, you can't know everything about that person's life. And this is a good way to understand that circle for this person. It's also a good way for family members to understand the circle of this person's life, because oftentimes the individual is not with them all the time. And they, while they're apart, are experiencing and interacting with people that the family may not be so familiar with. It also then kind of further helps you plan when you're thinking, I don't think I have any resources. I don't know who could do this. I don't know how I would get help with X. Sometimes the star is a place to go back to go, okay, we need to solve this particular issue. What resources does Kathy, for example, or in this slide, Katie have around her that we can pull upon and look to as a support for the individual? Next slide. So we had this question earlier, and this is a simplified version, just to kind of get kind of oriented to what does it take to get started. And I think the gentleman who was asking some of the questions earlier is already planning ahead and thinking about how to do this and how to make it work best. So how to get started, you should contact your supports coordinator and let them know that you're interested in learning more about life sharing. The SC can help coordinate with the county to help identify providers. The reason we mention the county in this slide is the counties are also very interested in supporting individuals to receive this type of support, since it is such a highly, it's a service model that people have a high degree of satisfaction in. And I see Kristen has her hand raised.
Sorry about that. I was looking to type something and I hit the wrong button, but actually my son is in LifeShare and has been for a very long time.
Terrific. Counties are there to support the supports coordination organization units because they are also interested in supporting people pursuing this service. And it, as we learned from the question earlier, it is somewhat complex because you're starting with individual needs and everything goes from there. So you got to start with that person to find out what direction you might be heading in. And then we would encourage you to really continue planning using life course tools or whatever person-centered planning tools you like to use. I think it will help not only you and your family member or the person you might be providing life sharing to continue to grow and think about how best to have my life or their life. And that will also create an opportunity for the support to come into even a clearer view for folks. I've mentioned this before, but these tools are then easier for people to digest. Professionals, families, everybody, it's just far easier to get a good understanding of what's important for somebody when you're using these tools. We also would suggest you begin to interview providers, learn about the providers in your area and about their approach to this service model, because you can select the provider that you would like. Obviously, they need to be willing to do that. But you do also, Vicki touched on the fact that there are 96 life sharing providers in the state. So there certainly are options available. And then I think one of the things that we say, especially in life sharing situations where it is not the family member providing the support, is to be patient during the matching phase. This is one of the reasons life sharing sometimes takes longer to establish, because it is not a home where you put staff in. It's a home that becomes the home. The people living in that home are supporting the individual with the disability, with intellectual disability, developmental disability, or autism. So that takes a while. And that's one of the reasons people are satisfied with it, because typically, if the match is right, it's a very positive opportunity for both parties. There might be some questions about that, and I'm happy to, Vicki and I are happy to hear those.
Kathy, this is David. I have a question relative to the ownership of the home. Does that have to be owned by the provider? Could it be an LLC that is not owned by the, that the provider is not an owner? Or how is the ownership of the home established?
Yeah,
for this
if I
model?
can address this a little, David, because I think we're conflating residential habilitation with life sharing. And so in residential habilitation, it's owned by the provider. So it's provider owned or operated to be licensed. In life sharing, it's not owned by the provider or the agency. It's actually owned by the family who is supporting the person or the person themselves. So I think that's where we're getting a little confusion around rates and the service. Life sharing is not residential HAB. So life sharing is a separate service. There is not an unlicensed rate. Actually, I was just double checking while Vicki and Kathy were going over slides to make sure I wasn't misspeaking. So there's not a difference in licensed or unlicensed rates within the life sharing service. We have, or right, it's October. We have recently added the ability for an additional rate of life sharing without a day service, so that for folks who are not going out to school, or they're not going out to work, or they're not going out to some other kind of day habilitation, there is a differential in the rate there, but it's not dependent on licensed or unlicensed. The rate itself is completely related to the need of the individual.
Oh, okay, thank you, Michelle, for the clarification.
Yeah.
So if the ownership of the house is in the disabled individual's name, that would not be considered an asset that could potentially challenge the benefits that that individual gets from the government.
So
Is
I'm
that
no
correct?
financial advisor, but my understanding is your primary home is not an asset that counts against your resources. But I am not a financial advisor. I would always check that. But we have folks who, live with family, live in their own homes, that asset is not considered to be part of their resources in terms of their financial eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Rose had a question. Go ahead, Rose.
Yes, hi, thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate the information tonight. How successful has the life share model been for individuals who have a level 3 needs group and very intensive aggression and self-injurious behavior, particularly those with profound autism?
I'm not sure who wants to take that one. Kathy, did you want to?
I missed the first part of it, Rose. Would you mind repeating the first part of that?
Yeah, I'll be real specific since Michelle was talking about, looking at things on a very specific case by case basis. So I have a son who's in the level 4 needs group, very intensive behaviors. He's autistic and self-injurious behaviors, destruction to the home, destruction to my husband and I. We've been hit daily for quite a while. Curious to know how, with his consolidated waiver, we could actually slide him into a life share situation. It sounds like a wonderful opportunity to have him be part of a, family situation that isn't me and my aging husband. But I'm just curious to know, how does this work, and what is your success rate for individuals who have such a high needs like my son?
I don't know that we have that we can offer you a success rate in terms of whether that's data that we have gathered. Each individual is different. I would be misrepresenting to say it would be an easy match. So, the key to life sharing is to find the right match of people to live together. So if you're asking me, have I ever seen folks with some intense needs supported in life sharing? I have. But the match can take a really long time. The right people to support the person just have to be found. And is that available today for your son? We don't have unfortunately, we don't have a lot of families waiting to support. We'd like to have more. It becomes a very personalized type of experience developing this support, which is a lot of what Kathy was talking about in terms of really looking at those life course tools to see what it is that each person is needed. So is it possible? Yes. Is it an easy match? I would suspect no. That would take a whole bunch of work and matching to accomplish getting the right supports in there.
Thank you for that information, Michelle. I have actually been through the life course tools twice with my family and my son and his team, and we are really struggling to support him residentially here at home. So can you, as our Western region contact, recommend a path that we might pursue outside of life course? I'm sorry, outside of life share?
Um, I'm sure you're working with your supports coordination unit and your AE. It sounds like maybe it's looking for your son to reside in a place other than with you and your husband at this point. And so we would be happy to talk with the SC and the AE. I also can't tell you that, residential placements are readily available. Each situation also presents its unique challenge, but we're happy to try and work with folks.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll forward you the email that I sent to my son's AE and his support team today around this particular issue. And yeah, it's going to take a long time to find something for him. And with performance-based contracting coming on the horizon here in this next year, I'm very concerned as to whether or not that placement will actually be within a reasonable commute from where I live. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Rose. And like I said, if you scroll up, my contact information is in the chat too. So if we can be of any assistance, we're happy to do that. We'll take another question for Kathy and Vicky and Michelle, and then we do have two other presenters that will be sharing their personal experience with life sharing here soon. So Rose, or Kristen, I saw your hand raised. We'll go ahead and take your question, and then I know there's a couple in the chat, and we can circle back around to those at the end. But go ahead, Kristen.
Yes, as I said, my son is in LifeShare and he is a very high level need. My question is, and even though he's been in LifeShare for several years, the supports coordinators, even though I have one that's been a supports coordinator for years, is not able to answer any questions about LifeShare. My son has basically graduated to the couch with no programs since all the workshops and those have been closed and destroyed. I had questioned about, is he allowed to have a HAB aid? And then it was, I couldn't get a direct answer from Pathways. I couldn't get a direct answer from the sports coordinator because they honestly don't know anything about LifeShare. Then I was told, well, he would be allowed to go out and do a community program, but there are no community programs. So are they allowed to have 8 hours for a high level need?
So a couple things. Yes, and we've just added the life sharing rate without day for situations exactly like that to be able to enable that life sharing provider and provider agency or provider to be able to support folks in activities during the day. The other option is that your son could engage in community participation supports, but not in a facility. So someone could come and take him out into communities or activities during the day. That's absolutely
so they are
something
allowed
that can
to
happen.
have 8 hours.
HAB aid, I guess, can you help me to understand a little bit better
Sure.
why
Like I
HAB
work,
aid and why not
I'm
community
employed
support?
yeah, I'm employed by Pathways. I am my daughter's habilitation aide. I take her out in the community.
Mhm.
I have been told that my son was not eligible for such a thing. Like, so if I managed to find somebody that could be a HAB aide that could take him out in the community to assist his life share provider, because sadly his life share provider gets absolutely no respite whatsoever.
Okay, sure. So the first thing to explore then is that community participation support, which would also be someone who would take your son out to engage in community activities and to look at community participations. So that service is available to him, just like a day support in a facility would be available to him. So that would be the first place to look. Typically, you don't see habilitation for folks that are, living in a life sharing or a residential home. You would see community participation supports to encourage that community integration.
Yeah, because his levels, he's self-injurious and he can elope, seizures,
Yeah.
things like that. And that's the thing is where there are no day programs. The ones, and the ones that are out there can't handle him. And that's why I've asked where, somebody like it's under the W code. I forget which one that is. But I mean, Pathways that handles all of this doesn't even understand LifeShare. So that's a big problem because I can't get direct answers from
Right.
either,
So I think the response you may be getting is you cannot have a habilitation aid in that home. So you can't have a habilitation aid or community participation supports, CPS, easier to say, in the life sharing home.
but they're
It
allowed
has
to
to
go and take him out. Like they show up at the door and they can.
Absolutely. Community participation supports would come, pick them up, take them out to do stuff. But
Okay,
they
like,
can't do
so
stuff
could it be
in
a
the home.
private one person through Pathways that a parent hires?
Community participation supports, I do not believe is an eligible service for like a person-directed model. And I would have to, actually, Vicki would be a better person to answer that question, whether that's eligible for the person-directed models, like the, CLE and stuff like that. So I'm not sure. We'd have to look at that for you.
Yeah, we'd have to, it sounds like you have a pretty complicated situation there. So, we'd probably have to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm afraid it's going to jeopardize his LifeShare placement because there's no day program, no respite, and his provider's been doing this for many, many years. So
Yeah.
while LifeShare sounds great, but for kids like myself, and I was listening to Rose, yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's the be all end all, sadly. But thank you for
Sure.
giving me the opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, I think that it's likely that it's, if your son is your son is in life sharing, right? Because I
That is
think you said
correct.
you had 2 kiddos. So your
Yes,
son
I
is
do.
in
My
life
daughter
sharing.
lives at home. Mhm.
Okay. So that setting is not eligible for person-directed services unless the individual is looking to, transition to independence. So, there are rules written into the waiver, and so that's why we'd have to look for other services. It might not be able to be in that person-directed vendor fiscal model.
Okay.
Because of his living situation. So it could just be that, different things are kind of all weighing in and folks are struggling to figure out how to explain that. And I mean, I can sure appreciate that. I got thrown off my peg for a minute with licensed and unlicensed and life sharing and had to look it up quick. So yeah, I think it's worth a conversation. We're all happy to have a conversation about it. But,
Definitely.
there are some types of services that have some eligibility
Okay.
kind of factors to them, and that's written into the waiver. So, we have to follow those rules, but certainly there should be a way to get him something to do during the day.
Okay. I've taken up a lot of time. I'm sorry. So
No, it's
thank
terrific.
you all.
It's not terrific that we have this situation, but it's terrific to have the opportunity to hear about it and start thinking about solutions like what we might need to do.
Awesome. I believe these are your QR codes here, Kathy and Michelle and Vicki. I want to give you guys a minute to share these and finish up anything you wanted to share with the group, and then we will be moving on to Jim here in just a minute.
Yeah, no, sorry. The one QR code is for the link to my ODP, which has a lot of good life sharing information. The other one is the Commonwealth of PA site, also has a lot of good information on life sharing. So hopefully you guys can open those up. And then the life course framework that's the link for that too. And then there's my number and email at the bottom.
Awesome. And I will be sharing out these slides too. I always send a follow-up email a few days after a webinar, but I will share out the slides so that everyone has these resources to refer back to, has the contact information for Vicki that was shared. You will also then get another email from me, so my contact information will be on there. We are happy to have any conversation with any one of you to talk more in detail about your situation, what you hope for, what your goals are, and then happy to connect you with any resources that may be supportive as well. So we don't want you to think that when this session ends that we're going to ride off into the sunset and that's the end. We want to keep having these conversations with all of you, and then really getting into what works best for your loved one or for you as a self-advocate. So again, this isn't just a one and done. I don't want you to think we're going away. So we'll continue to keep in contact, but I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to thank Vicki and Kathy and Michelle for being here. I know how busy all of you are every second of every day, and coming and spending the evening with us tonight. It's so helpful to hear directly from all three of you with so much expertise and wealth of knowledge. So thank you for doing that. We wanted to make sure that we paired tonight's conversation not just with the perspective and the information from ODP, but we also wanted to welcome some people who have done life sharing to share what their experience has been. So the first person I'm going to open the floor up to is Jim. Jim, thank you for being here. We've been having this conversation about tonight's presentation for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months now. So I am going to turn it over to you so you can tell us what your personal experience with life sharing has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. So as Melissa has shared, I had been a life sharing provider. I had a gentleman live in my home with me, my son and his mother for 5 years. And I was going to talk a lot about the process, but I think I'm going to focus just based on a lot of tonight's discussion and what I've heard so far. I am going to focus on the part of the match because I think that can't be overstated. It is not a quick process, and the match is the single most important thing for both sides. I think the person who's going to experience the life sharing program as a participant and the folks, whether it be, I could have been single. I happened to have a family at that time, but whether it be, one person providing the life sharing opportunity to a participant, or it be that participant, that match, it just cannot be overstated how important it is. And I did hear, Kristen, you say, well, maybe it's not the program for my son. And it's not a program, I think, for everyone, but it can be a program still, though, for folks who are viewed as folks who present some challenging situations. So you could be a needs group level 4 or 5, and it could be really successful. Again, it depends on that match, and it's not going to be a quick answer. It's not going to be someone in the middle of crisis and you're going to find a life sharing match, within a few days, and it's just going to go swimmingly. You may do that as respite, but that match, for it to work, is so important. And the thing about life sharing that may really benefit, I think, folks who have 4s or 5s inside those need groups level, is because if you think about it, you're getting much more consistent, if for lack of a better word, staff. For one, you're not changing with every shift. For two, you're sharing parts of a day that typically, if you're a staff, that you wouldn't see. As a life sharer, you get to see each other, the participant and the life sharing provider, the host. You get to see a person in every part of their day, and there is no other program really like that. I mean, it truly emulates, I think, as close as we can get to in everyday life, a life with the kind of supervision um, that is really focused solely on, the person that you're providing the life sharing to, or that's receiving it. I think at most, maybe two or three. But the point to that is, think of how focused that kind of interaction is, that kind of day that both have, the host and the life sharing participant. It's just a very different level of care, I think, than all of the other programs. And having done it, I did it for 5 years. I do think that it can be the most fruitful, relationship bearing kind of support that there is. So the matching process, it took almost a year for the person that lived with me. We'll just say his name's Dave. It took almost a year, maybe closer to 10 months, but a lot happened during that time. And especially once, there's something called a home study, it's a family study. I filled out a bunch of information about myself, my interests, my son, his interests, his age, his mother, her age, her interests, the makeup of our house, if we had pets. It's amazingly detailed. And it sounds like, wow, that's, not a fun process, but it actually is pretty cool because, people are getting to meet one another. Initially you may go out to a dinner. I went out to a dinner, with the gentleman, and eventually, I'm going to say about a month and a half, 2 months in, I would like to be as specific as I can remember, to share with you guys. I did my family met Dave's family, and it was really something startling to me because, I've been in this field for over 30 years, and I've known about life sharing, since its inception. And I never considered, and it really was a big part of the transition for Dave and I, and Dave moving in, to becoming a part of our everyday lives. It was really telling because Dave's family was initially not a big fan of the idea. I think when the SC mentioned it, it probably had been mentioned at most ISP meetings as a possibility. That's something that we, I think, struggle with as a system is, how are we making sure everybody's up to date on current information and can explain it in a manner that it is accurate. I don't know. I mean, I think that the world in general is having staffing issues, staff turnover issues. So we have supports coordinator turnover issues. Just like any other field, we're having staffing concerns as well. So I do wonder, if that information gets out and how detailed it's explained, because it's a lot. It's a lot of information in our field, but I think of all of it, this is really good information. Because I do think it leads to true, genuine relationships. So we met with Dave's family probably about 3 or 4 more times before they would even consider if this was going to be something that moved forward. I think clearly, Dave was showing he was enjoying it. The match was wonderful because Dave was not the only person that I met and got to enjoy dinner with. But Dave was the person who clearly was really in sync with my family. And we felt that we would be then with him, that we shared many interests. And I think that Dave's family saw that after quite a few meetings, that they weren't being replaced. That was really important. There's nothing wrong with them. And I think, again, depending on how we present it, it can seem like, oh, well, they'll just find another family, that can do it. And trust me, I know no one's saying that. it's sometimes, Dave's family explained to me that's what they were hearing. No one said it, but that was something I didn't even consider. So as a person that's from the field and you would think would know all about this process, I definitely did have surprises through it. Now I'll say that Dave lived with me for 5 years. The door is not shut yet. And sadly, what occurred, and Mr. Forsyth, this may go back to, now I know your questions were more related to what if something medical happens to to the life sharing host. What happens to the person? Well, as Michelle O'Toole explained, there are providers that are connected to this kind of program. And what happened for Dave and my family is my son's mom and I went in different directions. So he certainly was assimilated into the family, but sadly that negatively impacted Dave, just like it did all the rest of us. But he still, through that, had a network of the people he met over the first 3 years of doing life sharing. Ty's mom's family, he still got to visit with them. My family, they really helped me out the next 2 years when it was just Dave and I, with things like making sure that he was going to get to his day program, because that falls on the life share. That's part of what your responsibility is. Your responsibility is everything then. Now, the good news is that the providers do really help with, they would keep track and make sure I knew when Dave's annual physical was, or if he needed this appointment, that appointment. Eventually, obviously, myself and the provider, the supervisor that was assigned to Dave and I, we got a nice system together and everything worked wonderfully. But you do have that support, and that support's I think, really important, because if you're not going to be a person who is, has just all the paperwork that you're going to need, that you are able to keep track and provide transportation to, any kind of appointment. Those are all the things you need to think of, but those were all the things I knew. Now, something I didn't know, again, I've been in this field since 1992. I've done direct care for many, many years. I then moved through the system, and one of the things that my son's mom and I, who also works in the field, talked about is over all that time, we both were far from doing direct service work. But really, the reason we got into this field is we love our population, we love our folks, and we felt really disconnected, from that. So that was part of our motivation. And I expected all that. But when Dave and I no longer, when we lived just the two of us, I started to depend, on natural supports, which is, again, everything that's supposed to happen in the life sharing program. So we really began to rely on our family and friends, because it was just me now. So my dad started doing a lot, with him. And, he was really, really upsetting me because, in my mind, I thought, you're taking all these risks, with him, with Dave. And, then I would worry about what it meant, to me or Dave, or, as far as what we'd have to do paperwork wise. And, when Dave and I were out doing things, I thought we were just out doing things. And the thing I learned over the course of doing life sharing is that, my friends would be like, he's fine. We got him. We know him, like, you don't have to stand here with us. And it took me a while, just because I was so worried that something would happen to Dave. I was probably over protecting him, just like I think I felt like I was doing direct care and working. And ironically, I was the last person to let that go. My friends and even my dad, by letting Dave carry down, big block brick with him from in the backyard to the front, while they were hanging out. I thought, oh my gosh, what are you doing letting him do that? He could drop it on his toe. Then I got to do an incident report. I got to take him to the hospital. He's going to be in pain. Like, all that is in everyday life. And it took me the longest out of everybody on that, in Dave's life to actually let those kinds of concerns go. And I would have thought I'd have been the first. So you really do have these beautiful relationships that grow and foster themselves if the match is good. And that's the key. That's why you really would be remiss to have this kind of program and try to do it super fast. There are times we use it for respite, and it still has great benefit for a lot of the reasons I already mentioned. But for something long term, that match is really important. And I'm going to say the SC and that provider really did a good job of that match. And even I wanted it to happen a little sooner, but the length of time really does, I think, help everybody, not just the host, family, not just the participant, but folks that I didn't think would be anything but happy to hear about the possibility. Dave's family, it took them quite some time. We all still talk. We all still, get along and send Christmas cards and all that kind of good stuff. And like I said, it is life lasting if the match is good. And that's the key. But, I don't know of too many stories where it gets very far into this and the match is not good and it continues. So again, there was a question asked about the success rate. Being around as long as I have, I don't have numbers either, but from what I've seen and what I've experienced, it has a high success rate. And it's because of, I really think, such individualized communication and companionship. So I do have a very positive experience of life sharing, and I do think it is not for everyone, though. There are going to be situations, and actually, Kristen, I'm not sure if it was you. I think actually it might have been someone else, but had talked about maybe their son is not, maybe for that program, maybe not. Maybe, but the match, Michelle made a good point. The match would take much longer because you're going to need a special person, and those people are out there that really just enjoy, always on the move, being a go-getter, and that have great patience. That certainly could do things that maybe others, feel they couldn't, and they wouldn't be a good match for. But I wouldn't rule it out. Is what I'm saying.
I love that, Jim. It's learning so much more about life sharing, from the structured ODP perspective, but then your perspective too. Like, I really appreciate you sharing that, it took a little longer than you wanted it to. And, all of the different things that you had to work through, and, that you might have been a little overprotective and you were the last one to kind of get there. Like, I think those are all real lived experience that, I personally appreciate hearing. But also, I think what's truly great is even after the 5 years, the relationship is still there. The relationship didn't just exist because you were sharing the same living space. The relationship was that authentic and that real that it grew beyond the four walls of a home, and I think that is truly, truly beautiful. Anything else you want to share before we hear another perspective on life sharing?
No, but that's the beauty of the program
It is.
yeah. So, but no,
I love it.
that's
When you were talking about it, it literally gave me chills. So thank you for really bringing that personal component to it. It just it means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to other people too. So thank you for being here. I really truly appreciate it. The next life sharing family that we're going to hear from, and I'll let them introduce themselves, but Lisa and Chris, are you there? You are. Perfect. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for being here, and I will let the two of you share your experience with life sharing.
Hello, my name's Chris. I'm happy that, what is that, Lisa?
like to live in life sharing?
Yeah, and
Are you happy in this house?
And I'm happy in the house here.
Do you like
That's
the
awesome.
community?
I like the community. I like where I'm working.
Where do
Good.
you work?
I work at Giant Eagle.
What do you do there?
I do the cards. I have nothing else to say.
I think you shared, I love what you shared. I love what you shared,
you.
and thank you for, it's not always easy to come into settings like this and share your life. So I appreciate you doing
You're
that. It
welcome.
was really brave of you. Thank you.
Problem.
If I could ask both of you, and either one of you could answer, but when did you start life sharing, and how did you start life sharing?
You want me to answer that or you want to answer that?
Is that easy, Lisa? Was she
So
asking?
she's asking, when did you start living here?
I'm not gonna
It-
remember it.
So,
Lisa,
so
come
with
on.
Christopher, life sharing is a
Come on.
little different. So I agree with what Jim said. The match is
Hmm.
absolutely important.
Hmm.
I mean, you're going to share your life. You're not just sharing a home. You're sharing your entire life, your family with
Hmm.
that person. And so Christopher's lived with us off and on. Well, I originally met him and his mother when he was probably 7. And I started helping mom with him probably not long after that. And Chris just seemed to do better at our house. And I kept him more and more. And eventually he came to live with us, maybe right around high school. And then mom heard that about Achieva and that there was going to be a fair. And so we went and we met Melinda there. Melinda, are you here?
She is.
I am here,
Okay.
Lisa. Hi,
Hi,
Chris.
Melinda.
How are you?
Hi, Melinda.
You see her?
Great.
Thank you. It's been a little bit.
It has been. It has been.
I don't see you no more.
It's
I
been a
know
while.
you get to see Greg now, huh?
Yeah, I like Greg. He's a very friendly person. He's a good guy too.
He is a good guy. He
He's
really
good.
is.
How often do you see Greg?
I see Greg a couple times a week usually.
Got to keep our eye on him, all right?
Okay, I will do that.
And
So Christopher has been in life sharing with us now for about 6 years, maybe 7, but has lived with us, like I said, off and on for quite a few years.
it feels like 18 years, right?
18, you think it's been maybe
I don't
off and on.
Somebody said I'm so glad to come.
And he still has contact with his parents and his family. As a matter of fact, he's flying next month. He'll fly to Florida and spend some time with his sister.
Yeah, my sister lives down in Florida, so it'll be fun going down there.
So Chris is truly just a part of our family. That's how it happens. And I think in life sharing, that's what's to me, that's what's important, that that person just becomes a part of your family, a part of your life. And that's what's happened here with Christopher. And we couldn't do it without the support of Achieva. I mean, we've had lots of, going into this, moving Chris in permanently. We, of course, came with its challenges, and with the support that we got from Achieva has made that doable. Like Chris needed to get a job. Chris is very active. He walks all over the community. We call him the mayor of, we live in Peters. We call him the mayor because he knows a lot. He probably knows more people in Peters than I do. But through Achieva, we were able to get a job coach, and that job coach worked with Chris to find a job that would work well for him. Chris likes to be around people.
I love being around people.
He's very social. So he does the carts at Giant Eagle, and he gets to meet and talk to a lot of people on a daily basis up there. And then I work at Mills and Wills, and he comes and volunteers there, helps do the dishes and pack the food.
Yep.
So Chris is a very busy active
guy.
person.
I love it. And I can tell that you're very personable because you are, you're meant for the screen. You're doing a great job I just
Thank you.
glad you're here. Lisa, if I could ask you a question.
Sure.
I know that I've heard from a lot of families, like you were saying, you know, you have enhanced Chris's life and he's enhanced yours, but you
Yes.
know, no one has lost anything here. You know what I mean? It's adding additional relationships. But I know
It
for a lot of families, they sometimes feel like maybe life sharing isn't quite right for them because they almost feel like they're losing their loved one. You know, and what would you say to reassure a family that it's not, no one's losing anything?
I would say to them that actually, I think Christopher living in our home has enhanced the relationship with his family,
Mm,
because his parents are older, and they struggled. They had many struggles, and since Chris has come here, he's kind of settled now and is, able at his house. The community was not right for Chris. He could not just leave, go for a walk, do the things that he can do here. And I think it caused frustration. But absolutely, this situation for Christopher has created a much better relationship with his family, with all of his family.
that's incredible.
Don't you think that's
Yeah, that's
Do
right.
you have a good relationship with your mom and dad
Yeah.
and your brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
So either,
Yeah.
and this is, go ahead, Chris.
I have a good relationship with Lisa. Heh.
Yes, he does.
Sounds like you have a lot of great positive relationships in your life.
Yeah, I do. I'm happy.
Good, good. And that's the most important thing is that you're happy and
Yeah,
that
it is important.
you have all of the things in your life that are important to you and important for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Let me ask you guys, and this is for either one of you or for both of you. Um, how did you decide to consider starting life sharing? I know that you had been kind of doing it a little bit initially, but how did you decide to make the leap and formally enter into life sharing?
Do you remember how that happened? No. So it was Christopher's mother's idea. I didn't know anything about it. And so she called me on the phone and said, I hear they're going to do this life sharing fair. I would like for you to go with me so you can see what this is about, see if it's something you would be interested in. And like I said, we went to the fair, walked around at the tables, and honestly, we went to Achieva's table, and Melinda could not have been nicer and very thorough in her explanation. And so that's what started the whole thing.
Right. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, I've listened to Kathy and Vicky and Michelle share and then Jim, and it really, that matches what seems to be key to that success. And it sounds like that was the same experience for the both of you.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, you can just hear it in both of your voices, if I'm being honest. For anyone who is considering life sharing as a possibility for themselves or for their loved one or for someone they support, what advice would you give them?
Again, I'm going to go right back to the match, right? It has to be a perfect match. And for the family to make that decision, I think many things would have to be in place. Like, is the community the right community for that person? Depending, can that community meet the needs of that person? Is the family situation compatible to what that person needs?
Sure.
And that all goes back to the match, but really, if you find the right match, it's perfect. It really is perfect.
That's awesome. I love hearing these personal success stories. Like I said, it really kind of brings it home for me. We do have a couple of questions. If you guys don't, I know we're a little bit over our time, but do you guys mind taking a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay. Kristen, it looks like you're first and then Sandy. So Kristen will go to you and then Sandy will go to you next. Go ahead, Kristen.
Oh, I don't know why it was showing that I still
Oh, that's okay.
yeah, but I mean like I said, my son is actually in LifeShare, and it is done through Achieva. And Melinda, you know Evan. So
I do, Kristen. Hi, how are you?
good, good, good.
Like a
Good.
reunion around here, Melinda.
I
Oh,
know
yeah.
it's really wonderful. As Chris was saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I haven't seen you in a while." I was thinking, oh, I missed that part of it. Yes.
Yep.
Mhm. I love it. And thank you too for being here too, Kristen. I know you weren't formally here to share your story, but I love that you did come and felt comfortable sharing your
Oh yeah, and
story and
I'm
your
open to any
story.
questions. I mean, my son, um, I heard Jim talk about, oh my gosh, afraid that the kid to get hurt. My son, while he's severe, profound, my son has been whitewater rafting. He's held an alligator. He
Right.
has done things that I always said would never be possible. His life care provider is the type that hold my beer, will do it. Um, very much. My son is now pretty much like a hippie. They travel everywhere. Am I happy with his life share placement? There is no other place on earth that I would have him at.
Fantastic.
That's a good
Um,
match.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, my situation was I actually knew Rich before, and he already had Evan, and
Sure.
my son was the youngest kid ever in LifeShare. But because of his severity and because of his educational background, now though I will say the aspects have changed because, my son went to school and everything, but now with no support during the day, that's what I'm most worried about. But as far as
Sure.
success rate, with our success rate, Evan's been with Rich since he's been what, 5? And Evan's
Okay.
now 22.
Okay.
Have I ever had a complaint about Rich in all those years? The only complaint I would have is at times he's overprotective. So if that's bad, it's
Yeah.
not bad.
That sounds absolutely beautiful too, Kristen.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to project anything, but maybe this, I'm hearing all of the people who are engaging in life sharing, have engaged in life sharing. Melinda, maybe I can connect with you, but maybe we can kind of formulate some kind of group, if anyone wanted to just connect with each other and build that community and those natural support networks. I just want to make sure, obviously no one has to do anything, but if there was ever a need or a want, we would be happy to be the bridge to connect people to one another. So we can always keep that in the back of our minds. I know there were a couple of questions in the chat for ODP. We are a little bit over time though, and I want to make sure I'm respectful of everyone's time. Tina and Michelle, I know your questions did not get answered this evening, but like I said in the chat, I will make sure that I follow up with you both. Tina, I think you left, but I do have your email address. Michelle, if you're still here, I should also have your email address from the registration, and I will save the chat to make sure that your questions get answered. I don't want anyone feeling like they're leaving and nothing's getting resolved or we're going to forget about you. I promise I'm an elephant. Michelle, I can see
I
you.
did respond in the chat, but of course, Tina knows where to find me.
Yes,
So
you were findable.
yeah. So Tina knows where to find me, and we're engaged in continued discussion. So yeah, I did try to answer in the chat, but of course, I'm perfectly happy to have further discussion with anybody.
Absolutely. And like I said, everyone, I will be sending a follow-up email. I hope this will not be a one and done kind of conversation. We want to keep having these conversations with all of you and anyone that is interested. So whether it's tomorrow or a week from now or 6 months from now, please don't feel like you're on your own and you're not connected. We want to make sure that we are connecting with you and we are connecting you to whatever you need to help you or your loved one be successful. So Mary, any closing thoughts for this evening? You're muted.
So we went a little over tonight, but we do want to have some housing discussions. If life sharing isn't your option, or the thing that you're thinking about for your star or for your plan, we really want to open these conversations up, especially in Allegheny, Westmoreland, and Beaver, so that we can talk about what's available in terms of housing options in the ODP waiver, and also using natural supports and resources that are already in our communities. So if you would like us, we can send out when Melissa sends out the recording and information. We can also offer the option for people to get into a chat situation. We originally wanted to meet in person because we feel like, we don't want to have recordings necessarily. We want people to feel free to talk. And so we might just identify a better time of day where individuals with disabilities and their families can come and just talk openly about what it is they're looking for. And we can start to work on some solutions, maybe bring in some other partners from the community who can tell us more about HUD vouchers or, other housing opportunities that are in our communities, potentially, other kinds of things that we've been trying to sort of think about, which is like intentional communities or pocket communities, which is a really interesting concept in different parts of the United States. So we just want to give everybody an opportunity to think about what it is they want, and then we can find the appropriate people who can bring the training to us and then have open conversations. So I hope you're open to that, and we'll put out a survey to see availability.
Mary, you read my
Okay.
mind. I literally just wrote down survey. So, yeah. I mean, we're happy to come to wherever, if you want to meet at the office, one of our offices, that's fine. If you want to meet at a coffee shop, that's fine. So we can be flexible. We just want to make sure that we're connecting with people and we're connecting people with resources and information that can be helpful to them. So whatever we can do to be a part of that, we're happy to. So I will definitely get a survey together with the follow-up, and maybe we can have some of these in-person conversations. And I know myself would really enjoy that. As I mentioned, my son is 13 and Kiefer has Down syndrome and autism. So there are plenty of people on this meeting tonight that are a little further down the road than I am. And I would greatly benefit from learning other people's experiences too. So when I say we're all learning together, I truly mean that for sure. Awesome. Well, I won't keep you guys any longer, I promise. I intentionally made sure it wasn't a Thursday night that we did this, that there was a Steelers game, because I didn't want anyone to feel conflicted and leave early. I've made that mistake in the past, but I will let everyone go. I will send out a follow-up email. I will send out the slides. You will have my contact information, and we will continue to further this conversation with anyone that wants to continue having it wherever that works for them. So thank you guys for spending your evening with me. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Kathy and Vicki and Michelle, wealth of knowledge. I can't thank you all enough. And thank you to Jim and Lisa and Chris. Again, you really kind of made life sharing tangible to me. And when I say that I literally got chills, I literally did get chills. So thank you for being here and being brave and sharing your experiences with us. We really appreciate it. All right, everyone. Well, good evening. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you all soon.